And so it was just, and by the way, it was during COVID. So
Right.
like,
I wanted to ask you about that, the challenges. So like you're coming in, it's, hey, we're going to series
right,
announced January 2020.
yeah.
As an actor, how did you guys all get through that?
Like, I don't know, like you watch a lot of fantasy movies, I'm assuming, like it's in the same kind of genre.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty safe bet. It's
Right.
pretty safe
Okay.
bet.
Do you know the trope where they have the castle and all the guys are defending the castle and they got the oncoming army, but then there's always one big guy coming out. And like what I'm talking about? They always got one giant, right? And they're
Yes.
shooting them full of arrows. And then he's
He won't go down.
because the big guy's coming and he gets the arrows. That was Superman Lois, a behemoth, a massive, massive show that was destined to take the world by storm, right? So here we are. And the first little arrow comes,
Yeah.
and you're like, 2-week delay. You're like, okay, we can keep going.
Yeah.
6 months delay. Oh, okay. International pandemic. Okay. And then you get the strike. And then the strikes, and then strike number 2. Now your back is littered with arrows.
Double strike.
Lurching forward, but at this point, the show it was unrecognizable from season 1, where we were expecting this to go 10 seasons. This was the rest,
Right.
like until I was 24. I was expecting to get off this show and just the biggest thing on earth. Now it's full of air. We're still lurching, but then the CW is gone. It's gone. It just doesn't even exist anymore. So
Right.
Eventually the giant fell over. I mean, we went.
Yeah.
It
How
was
did
like,
you make it 4 seasons? How did the giant go for 4 seasons?
you actually wonder how it had the force of will, and it was force of will. I mean, season 4 was, I think, our best work, in my opinion.
All right, my guest today is a talented actor. You know him best for his role as Jordan Kent from Superman and Lois. A big welcome to Alex Garfin. Alex, welcome to Comic Book Central.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for repping the brand. I always love that. How many Superman shirts do you own? You probably put me to shame.
Oh, you know what? So many people give them to me, and I never throw them out. So I have accumulated 2 drawers full now. And that's a lot.
Oh, you got me beat. Yeah, I think I've got like maybe 15 or so, but yeah, you got me crushed.
It's really something. I don't think I've ever bought one though. That is something pretty funny about the whole thing. I've never bought one. I've had a lot given.
That's something to be proud of. You just take it everywhere, and then you just remember where you got them in different places. So yeah, I see you wearing them all the time. You're in El Salvador right now as we speak, right?
That's right. I'm in San Salvador. I'm doing a Comic-Con here. Apparently, and I don't know this because I haven't researched it, but the people from the con told me I believe I'm the first American actor they've had in El Salvador for this kind of thing. So yeah.
That's an honor. I mean, and you're repping like the whole series. So like you've got it, like you're the only one there from the series, or are there other ones there?
No, I'm the only one for the series. It feels like early season 4 when Superman was dead. And which was supposed to be a much larger arc, actually. There's an alternate world where the whole show looks so different. So funny.
We'll talk about that because I know it got truncated right at the end there. But I mean, fortunately for us fans, fortunately for you actors and the cast and crew, you did get to wrap things up. Maybe not exactly on your own terms, but look, some series don't get that. But we'll talk a little bit about that. So have fun at the convention. I know you're coming from there to TerrifiCon. You're going to be going to Connecticut, I think, just this week. You don't have anything in between, do you?
Oh, if I had something in between, I don't even know what I'd do with myself. Let me tell you what I'm doing. Let me tell you
We do have superpowers, so we do know.
I'll draw. I'll draw the little map of the world here. So
where you been?
Where I've been on this trip.
This works so great for an audio podcast, by the
way. This really does go so well. Okay, so I started this journey in Paris, right? By the way, I'm neglecting my work back home. My work back home involves running a staff of all these people, and I've had my VP run it, and I've been calling multiple times a day. I've been in disembodied voice back at the
Now,
UN.
is this a production crew or is this the Wit
It's at the
Youth?
UN actually. And by the way, this is supposed to be like down here. This is really so. It started vaguely in Paris, and then from Paris ended up on this strange cruise. It started in London, then you go down to Southampton, but then you go on the cruise and it goes all the way around the British Isles, stops at the Orkney Islands, all the way back to Southampton. After 2 weeks on that boat through less than hospitable territory, then I fly all the way over to Miami. I took a meeting there for 4 hours. There's ELCOIDs. They draft the national use statement for the United States government for climate. And 4 hours in Miami and then straight to El Salvador. So yesterday I actually recorded the whole day. I get to El Salvador and there's a crowd at the airport. It's like a big deal here. There's a crowd at the airport.
For you?
It was for all the people that were coming in. So I guess
okay.
It was but again, I was the only American actor there. I think anyway, that's what I've heard. Although there's a lot of Latin American actors.
It's kind of like the Beatles hitting the States back in
the crappy Beatles. Like El Salvador is a beautiful country. I am just not the Beatles, So
well, the Superman fan. Hey, look, depends on the fan base. I'm going to tell you that right now because the show itself has just such an amazing fan base. It is beloved. You mentioned environmental causes too. Part of this, you actually speak not just for environmental causes, but like political cause, all kinds of different things. I think you're as a Wit Youth. Describe a little bit about what that is, and you're actually speaking at the United Nations like Superman did in Superman 4, right? But you're doing it in real life. You get to legit do it.
The whole Superman thing really got to my head.
Save the world, save the planet.
Wit Youth. So Wit Youth, we're right now, as it's structured, we're a project of a NGO, but we're also the only active branch. So we more or less are the NGO. It's a little bit more of kind of a square rectangle kind of thing. But what the NGO is a non-governmental organization, and it can represent itself at the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. So all the countries all get together into the UN and they discuss various topics. Security Council for that's legally binding stuff, and a lot of times it's treaties and whatnot. And then you have the ECOSOC is what it's called, the economic social side, which they also do a lot of stuff, right? I mean, I could get into a lot of details, but I'm sparing you guys. So what we are doing works tangentially along with the UN. Like we work within the UN system, outside the UN system, but we're trying to make it so that young people are resilient to misinformation. The idea is that I went to a lot of these Comic-Cons, and before I was an actor, I wanted to be an academic, actually. I mean, I was on this whole academic track. I really wanted to be a scientist.
I was going to say, you mentioned on one of your social posts, it was like you wanted to be a scientist.
Yeah.
And then it just shifted. Okay. I was curious if that was, okay.
No, I mean, look, life takes you in strange directions. And
yes,
at the time, acting felt unrealistic. I mean, it's a big dream to come true, and it's an unlikely one. I actually had that thought yesterday. If this show was made a couple years earlier, it probably would have been an even bigger deal, right? It would have been alongside The Flash and Supergirl, and I wouldn't have had the pandemic, but I wouldn't have been on it. I would have been too young. But if it happened a couple years later, it wouldn't have been made. I mean, like, just even things like that, you realize how unlikely your life is as an actor. And I think that grounds you in coming from a place of gratitude. I hope. I think so. And I think when you have that mindset, you want to do other things with it. I was put into this position where I have an audience and a platform. And I realized that a lot of my colleagues that had a similar platform were putting things out there that they weren't sure were true or false. Mm-hmm. They were behaving as if they didn't have one at all. Now, that's no fault to them. Most people are trying to do the right thing. And there are a lot of these actor influencer, activist influencers that
social media.
They educate themselves on a topic, but a lot of times don't use reputable sources. And more often than that, they will do updates on the topic from other influencers. So there's multiple rounds of mediation, which means you get a sensationalized view. And 97% of Gen Z and millennials, so these are people under 40, get their news from social media, at least on a weekly basis. So there's really something to be said that our media institutions are severely altered, the information stream severely altered. Well, how is that manifesting? Well, we're seeing a rise of extremism across the world. This is kind of a unilateral thing. This is not just in the United States. This is also in Europe and Latin America, all over. And you're seeing polarization. And you can expect that because these AI algorithms basically just tell you things that you want to hear, right? They tell you things that will be engaging to you.
They'll populate your feed with what you gravitate toward,
right.
But that's not necessarily accurate.
And here's the thing. You could try to fight the flow of the future by building a dam, but you'll be a lot more successful if you divert the river. Like, we can't stop the fact that people will get their news from social media. But what we can do is make it so that the one, news that they are getting is better, and two, that they have a better gut feeling as to what's true and false. So this manifests as media literacy. Media literacy is not taught widely in schools. In fact, I think only 40% of American youth claim to have had any education in media literacy, which is a pretty appalling statistic in general. So what we are doing is we're piloting a media literacy program and working with young people. I mean, my whole staff is all young people, and we have some other people that are advising us. Actually, some really great people from Harvard, MIT, all these crazy institutions.
I looked at that. You're working with some unbelievable folks. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's
crazy. I think because people care about this cause. People care about this issue, and we're uniquely situated to do it. If I wasn't in my position as an actor, and if I wasn't in my position after years of working and building credibility within the UN and activism, I don't think this would come to be in the same way. So we're piloting media literacy programs, and more than that, once those are scientifically validated, we're going to do some research and measurement. We're also going to be doing an ambassadorship program. So we're going to start with people just talking about the UN, but do it in general, where these influencers can get the institutional validation they crave in exchange for some training in how to do their own
training. What is that?
Yeah, so
educate people. What are you thinking? Educating people.
The great thing is too, like, there's a lot of data. There's a lot of ways you can measure this, because the way that social media companies get their check is by collecting data. So there's a lot of data on this stuff, and we're partnering with social media platforms as well to measure and see just how much of an impact we're having. I don't want to go out there and just say that we're throwing dust into the wind. I want to make sure that the wind smells different. We can really measure this stuff. So that's what I've been working on for a while. I mean, the team is absolutely incredible. And again, we're pretty uniquely situated to do something like this. And the great thing also is that because the team is so great, while I am kind of, the captain, my co-pilot is pretty great as well. So when I step away for acting roles, it's pretty seamless, like I did just now for this ridiculous trip all around.
So you can leave home base for a while. It's taken care of. And that was, I've often been interested in that because, for old dudes like me, it's like we used to have to go look up stuff. We used to have to dig into books. We used to have to, read newspapers. We used to have to, watch Dan Rather or Walter Cronkite or something. Again, I'm way dating myself, but it's like you had to get that, and there were legitimate sources. Now it's just a click on your phone, and it's just, you have no idea. I see people post things all the times, and it's like, why would you post that? That's not even close to being true. There's, well, I saw it somewhere, and it's all of a sudden that spreads like wildfire. So the fact that you guys are doing this, your team's doing this at such a young age, that gives me a little bit of hope for the future of.
Well, it's an intergenerational thing. I mean, that was my main. That was my main thing I was championing back in the UN before this, was intergenerational communication, because they're all interconnected. They all are. If we can communicate better, we can solve some of the world's largest problems better. And that's obviously in the interest of everybody.
The fact that you said I was just championing this at the UN is just kind of mind-blowing. So that's pretty cool.
The whole thing is ridiculous, and how I ended up there is a whole different story. It was most of it was unrelated to acting. I built a whole different career just in my off time, in the hiatuses of the show, because I was restless and I really wanted something else to feel like I had a purpose in that time.
Well, you did it, and you mentioned going from an interest in science to acting. So that's in high
Yeah.
school, right? Like, how did you? What made that switch, and when do you remember when the acting bug really first caught you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty long and crazy story. But the short version
Well, don't
was I
take
was
too
already,
long. We want to get to Superman
yeah, we want to
Lois.
get to Superman here. The short version is I was already in high school for acting. I mean, I was doing it as a child. Again, though, I didn't take the idea of acting for my life seriously yet at the moment. When I was 15, you know, something really special happened where I was at like a public piano. I'm not doing the story justice. I'll tell it another time. But I got to see how
Oh,
much
I
I
was
love
teasing.
people.
Go ahead, take your time with it. I was
No, no,
kidding.
you're fine. You're fine. I got to see how much I love people. And I realized I loved people before that as well. Like that was always a big motivator for me was getting to know people better. So when acting started to become more serious for me, I realized in essence it was just another study of people, and that's why the UN stuff fits in so well, at least in my brain. I think they're all the same skill set. It's understanding who people are and trying to connect people with each other. So yeah, that's really the source of my love for acting, and I think it goes to all the arts, really.
Was there something like had you just like what sparked you initially? Was there like I want to try? 'Cause, you know, sometimes people oh, I want to impress so and so in high school or something, or I want to do that. Was there something that hit you
Yeah,
like oh, I want to
yeah.
try to give this a shot?
Well, the day after that crazy thing at the piano happened, where I got to meet a bunch of strangers, and I realized that a lot of our social status symbols are pretty inadequate for describing who people are. I realized that I could go into the audition room and treat people as my equal. I think my whole life, because of child acting, this will do it to you. I think it causes that psychological bug. You have an inferiority complex,
Hmm.
and you try to compensate for that in other ways. That day, more or less, did a lot of therapy for me, and I went in there as an equal. I made bold choices, and I care about acting again because I got to know the person I'm portraying. Like Jordan, I had the honor of portraying this guy as he grew into himself over the course of 4 years,
Yeah.
and I still carry him with me. There were times that I didn't like who he was. There are times that he didn't like who he was. But all the while, it was, you know, it was a rewarding experience. It's not much more to say.
Well, yeah, let's talk about it. We got into Superman Lois. So you know, do you remember getting a call? Was it an audition? How did you first find out about the project? And I'm
Yeah,
guessing you were a Superman fan because I think even on your website, is there a picture of you as a little tyke in a full-on Superman?
yeah. It's funny.
So
It's funny too.
little
Yeah,
Alex was a Superman fan, bro.
that's true.
All right.
Um, yeah, I got the call from my agent, although they were already searching pretty far and wide by the time they got to me. Enough that it was actually on the wall of my school. They were doing open calls in high schools.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so I did get it through my agent, but I think it came to me pretty late, so the pool was already pretty big.
What did it
And
say? So you're going through high school. It's what did it say? Like for
yeah,
Superboy, or did it say some
it,
superhero project, mystery superhero
no,
project?
I think it actually did say Superman and Lois. I have a picture of it.
Okay.
I have a little video
Oh,
because
cool.
after I booked the role, it was still up on the wall. So I went back and I was
Cool.
like, "Hey, what's good?"
Oh,
Um,
nice. Check that
so
one off.
yeah. I went in for Jonathan originally too. They had the,
Okay.
they had the characters' names obscured. I remember Jordan was Ethan, and the other one was something along those lines. I'm forgetting it now. But
Okay.
yeah, I went in for Jonathan, and halfway through the script, I thought I was wasting the person's time. And my newfound confidence in my life, maybe overconfidence, I told her that I'm wasting my own time. I'm wasting your time. This character isn't right for me. I've never touched a football in my life, and I think that maybe triggered in the casting director Finley, her brain, that I should go in for the other character. So she brought me in the back of the
Oh,
office, and she brought me the other character, which I connected to a lot more. I mean, there was a whole scene in there calling a teacher an idiot, actually going to the principal and saying that he got in trouble for calling a teacher a dumbass. Uh,
right.
and the principal's like, "Why'd you call the teacher a dumbass?" And he's like, "Well, because the teacher's a dumb." I've had that
That
conversation
you
with the
locked
principal
into.
before, unfortunately.
What's that?
It felt natural.
Did you
It
say you've
felt
been
natural.
in that role before?
Oh, absolutely. I was the worst kid in high school. I thought I was so much smarter than everyone else. I was just such a little. Uh, but it's funny because you grow up quick on a set. You grow into a
Yeah.
different person. You move your entire life. You have a completely new context and a completely new set of responsibilities. I'm actually writing an essay right now. I might apply to some colleges just because there's actually programs that you can do while you're acting. You kind of go in and out. And I really want the education, especially for the UN stuff, because I want to be able to speak with intelligence on it. And I think it would be an arrogant move to believe that I could learn it all on the go. There's kind of like this dialectic between living something and having to learn it. You can fill in each other's gaps, but I only really have the lived experience right now, and I need to learn something. Either way, so I'm writing in the essay right now about how I grew up into two people. You move to Vancouver, all of a sudden, your life matters on a new scale. Not that it didn't before, but what happened was that no one told you it did. You were one of a million. I was in the New York City public school system. You had a 9-digit number that was to represent who you were. It's something to be said that my entire personality and life would have been different without this shit. How do we empower people to feel that same way without a massive production? How do we make people not just feel like a number? One way to do that is community and getting to know people, but it's an open question. I think Jordan Kent felt like that. For most of his life, he felt like that. And his dad was gone. He grew up, with his mother being kind of his only friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has to move his whole life. He's angry about it. He's blaming everyone else. I think when you're just a number, you have very little to lose in being not very nice to the people in your life. You kind of resign yourself to that. Then again, everything changed when he had responsibility, much like myself.
So you knew that character. You knew that once the casting director kind of switched your thought over to that, you knew that character.
I think so.
Yeah. It's mentioned in the pilot that that Jordan was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder. What challenges did you face with knowing that in the initial script? Did you have to do any research, or was it sort of all there on the page from the writers doing the digging ahead of time?
I did my own research, but also, there was a lot on the page. You kind of need to do both.
Yeah.
And then, as he grew up, it's not that he grew out of it, but he almost like he grew into it a little bit more. He was able to manage it easier.
Yeah.
And there's some through lines that we kind of just dropped along the way. I kept trying to get back the medication thing because he couldn't exactly just stop the medication. But never.
Because that's a huge part of the scene when Clark tells the boys he's Superman.
Right.
And all of a sudden that switch flips in Jordan of like, I've been on meds. You made me think, well, what's the line? You made me think I was crazy or something like that. Or,
right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge turn for that character at that point.
It is. And but that's how TV goes. You only have so much time to do the things that you want to do. Right. I was one character in a cast of a lot. And I couldn't go out there and say pay more attention to me. I was very grateful for the amount of attention they paid to me. They gave me a lot.
Can't tap into the character that hard.
Yeah. Exactly. And look, now that I'm more than a year out from it, it's hard to not look back and just see it as part of your life. It didn't feel like something I did. It felt like something I lived. You grow up on a set, and it's like that.
Yeah. It's that age that I think you were 16 to like 19 or 20-ish.
Yeah.
Like that kind of, I mean, just even visually watching you over the course of the 4 seasons of you changing, as you grow up into almost a Superman, It's kind of like a condensed version of Smallville, or we see him grow up and he becomes Superman at the end. I mean, what challenges did you have just as a young person coming in to such an iconic series, the mythology, 80 plus years of, oh man, this character is so defined and this mythology is so defined for everybody around the world.
I mean, look, before the challenges, I think my youth at that moment gave me some advantages as well, because I was so young. And also, to be honest, I had that little picture of me as a kid, but besides that, I really was unaware of Superman in general, or comic books. Actually, most of the cast was. So I came into it and I thought, I know this thing has been around forever. I know it's a big deal, but I can't get wrapped up into that. I need to just portray this character accurately. But then the flip side came along. I can speak a little more honestly now that I'm farther away from it, and I don't feel like I'm like compromising things. But the flip side of it was people had a very rigid idea of what this character was supposed to be. This character more or less was like Jonathan in the comics, but he wasn't. And obviously he didn't have Jonathan's name. So people were attached to the brother just from the name alone. But also he was a more likable guy. And that's kind of what was in the script. But at the time, man, it just, it did affect me. I mean, when I was 17 years old and people were so intensely hating on the character at times. It's okay. not that people always hated it. In fact, a lot of people loved it. And that's the thing when you're 17. I would probably see 9 things where people would love it and 1 thing that people would hate it, and that 1 thing would stick in my brain because I put my whole life into this thing. And I remember I came to a point where I was really distraught. It was around filming episode 6, 106. No, I'm sorry. It was around filming episode like 112. Because 106 just came out. And I was sitting there, and again, like I knew the character was not the most likable guy, but I was so in the character that I almost couldn't see that. And I was sitting in the tent with Dylan Walsh, whom I respect a lot. And at the time, I really looked up to, and I still look up to this day. He's a working actor. He played my grandfather on the show. Mm-hmm. And I just had a moment of, you don't talk about real things in the tent, in the green room. You talk, it's so strange because you're mic'd and you're constantly worried you're going to be canceled or hot mic'd or whatever. So it's like you're talking in the Truman Show for your whole day.
Right.
But I kind of broke down for a second. I said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. And Dylan, he told me that you're not doing anything wrong. That's what he said. He said, you're not doing anything wrong. In fact, I really respect it because you're staying true to the character. You're not giving people what they want. That's who this character is. And you're doing a great job at it. And just that little bit of encouragement, it changed years of my life.
Wow.
Because you don't get that acting. You get people that are either telling you what you want to hear, or they don't know. Everyone has their own lens when they're talking to you. And everyone has their own lens when they have an opinion of the character. He didn't need to say that in that moment. And that's the only reason why I believed it.
I think that the part of and correct me if I'm wrong, the character wasn't written in the comics. It was Jonathan that was written in the comics. Jordan was a character created for the show. So it was almost like, oh, why are they making him like this? Or why is unfortunately, why is the actor playing them like that? And it just, it's said right in the pilot. It's said right in the pilot by Tyler. It's like, we had Jonathan and he was happy and he does this. And then there was some challenges, and it's like, you've set that stage there. We're going to play this out. We're going to see the troubles this kid has. And oh, by the way, we're going to throw superpowers in on top of him and see how he figures that out. It's just, that had to be such a weight, and unbelievable that you got through it. It's a good thing you said that in the tent to Dylan. I mean, that's what a game changer.
It was because often,
and it affected how you approached the character from then on.
Yeah. Because it allowed me to trust my instincts more.
Okay.
There was a little while there where I just was thinking, how can I change this or play against what this is? So yeah, it definitely, when you can trust your instincts, you will be able to play a character much better. And these are lessons you learn much later on. I mean, that's the other thing, right? I find myself wishing that I got to be the age that Jordan or Indy or even Michael was when they all started on the show. I wasn't. I wasn't. I started 2 years before them. And 2 years at that critical moment of growing up, it makes a lot of difference. You know, Jordan and Indy for season one, they were both already 19, almost 20. And I just turned 17. I just didn't have the I think I had the ability clearly because I was doing it, and I'm grateful for that. I would like to think I did, but at the time I did not have confidence. I mean, I have it now. You know, like it's different. I grew into it. I had to grow up a little bit and figure.
But that was part of it. That's the character. Yeah,
they trusted me with this character when I was so young. I mean, I am so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I think it added to it that I was that age. I don't know if I would have been able to play it in the same way if I was 19.
Right.
So, you know,
you'd have to go back in your memory and figure out what kind of troubles was I having. Because that age gap, it might not seem like much, but that age from like 16 to 20 is just so changing. You know, 4 years later when you're, you know, in your 20s and 30s, who cares? But like that is just so impactful.
To put it in better terms, like they would have been sophomores in college and I was still in high school.
Yeah.
Like it's just
it's crazy.
And so it was just, and by the way, it was during COVID. So
right. I wanted to ask you about that, the challenges. So like you're coming in, it's, hey, we're going to series announced January 2020. Dun, dun, dun. It seems like so, you know, now you say January 2020, it's like, and how do you do that? And then all of a sudden it's, you know, two major Hollywood strikes as you're going through this. There's, we're selling the CW or whatever was going on there. Like, as an actor, how did you guys all get through that?
I don't know. Like, you watch a lot of fantasy movies, I'm assuming, you know, like it's in the same kind of genre.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty safe bet.
Right. Okay. Do you know the trope where they have the castle and all the guys are defending the castle and they got the oncoming army, but then there's always one big, I was going to say a bad word. There's always one big guy coming out. And you know what I'm talking about? They always got one giant, right? Yes. And they're shooting him full of arrows. And then
he won't go down.
You know, because the big guy's coming and he gets the arrows. That was Superman Lois, a behemoth, a massive, massive show that was destined to take the world by storm, right? I mean, it had the IP, it had talent, it had the writing, it just had
the cast. It had a perfect cast.
Incredible potential. And mind you, the largest, like, most ridiculous Hollywood machine behind it with Berlanti Productions that had shows going till season 9, even when they lost the team in season 2. You know, so here we are. And the first little arrow comes, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, 2-week delay. You're like, okay, we can keep going. 6 month delay. Oh, okay. International pandemic. Okay. And then you keep going. Okay, well, then you have no break between seasons. So you're shooting another arrow right through the writers. It was really hard on them. They managed to do a great job. It was really hard on them. Like, they don't get enough appreciation. And then you get the strike. And then the strikes, and then strike number 2. Now your back is littered with arrows.
Double strike.
Lurching forward. But at this point, the show, it was unrecognizable from season 1, where we were expecting this to go 10 seasons. This was the rest, like, until I was 24. I was expecting to get off this show and just, the biggest thing on earth. Now it's full of air. We're still lurching. But then the CW is gone. It's gone. It just doesn't even exist anymore. So eventually the giant fell over. I mean, we went.
Yeah. How did you make it 4 seasons? How did the giant go for 4 seasons?
You actually wonder how it had the force of will. And it was force of will. I mean, season 4 was, I think, our best work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
agreed.
The budget was cut severely. I don't know if I'm still allowed to say how badly it was, but
I'll say it. 7 of the 12 regular cast members gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that got axed. I guess you guys were doing like 15 episodes a chunk, and then all of a sudden you're truncated down to, what was it like? What was the final season? I'm trying to remember how many.
10.
10.
We went from 15 to 10. And the original plan was 23, but we scrapped that way back when.
Wow.
So we went from 15, and then the next season was 15, and then it was 13, and then 10. And, but mind you, also a major recast with Jonathan, fourth biggest character in the show.
So for people that aren't familiar with the series, I want to mention Jordan Elsas. He was your brother for the first 2 seasons, and then Michael Bishop comes in. So total, and at that point, it could have been like, write the character out, or can you, right? You know what I mean? Like, what a curveball.
Everything was a curveball. Every curveball. It was a testament to that team. I can't even imagine what that show would look. You know what it is? It's like Van Gogh. It's like Van Gogh, because Van Gogh I think he was schizophrenic. He was at least bipolar. He never sold a painting unless it was to his brother. And people say that all that anguish made the paintings what they were. That if he didn't suffer, then the paintings wouldn't be Van Gogh. But I actually saw a writer recently, it was a quote, I forgot who. And they say, I wish we would have thought it, that if Van Gogh didn't suffer, he would have created something a lot more. That the suffering and all the pain that he had were limitations and not the cause of his genius. And I think that with the show, that team was so incredible. And you wonder if it was the adversity that made it as great as it was, or if that adversity wasn't there, would we have gone even farther? Because it was unbelievable what people were able to accomplish so little by the end. And given how much we had in the beginning, like how we just had budget, we had a helicopter for wind at one point in the beginning. And by season 4, lights were falling down. And the quality of the show maintained itself.
Yeah, and I noticed that too when you're watching it. It's such a cinematic quality, and the epic things that you were able to pull off. Because even I knew going into season 4 as a fan watching it, I'm like, man, how are they going to pull this off? Because they've got Doomsday, they've got all these things, and watching it's like, yeah, they did it. But I think the key was set in the pilot. I went back and rewatched the pilot too, and the key is all those characters, including yours, everything's established right off the bat. And in that first show, we care deeply about everyone. And so we were going to go as fans, as viewers, we were going to go wherever you were taking us. Whatever journey, however long it lasted. And I think that's the impact of it. It was perfectly cast. Working with Tyler and Bitsy. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's good writing. It was fantastic writing.
Well, and it was you guys bringing it to life, because that, like we say here on Comic Book Central, I was like bringing comic books to life. It's like you still have to bring that stuff off the page. You still have to convince us of something. And the dialogue just rang true the way you guys brought it to life. When you're working with Tyler and Bitsy, and you're a Superman fan, so I know he's a castmate and he's a friend, but is there a part of little Alex dressed up as Superman that sees Tyler in a Superman suit and just is like, what's the thought process there?
Yeah, I mean, he just goes, "Why aren't you Batman?" And every time. No, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, man, like I think so. You do get used to it, weirdly enough. Yeah. But you also don't. You certainly don't get used to being in a costume yourself. I mean, my costume's limited, but even that was a weird feeling from day one. And we were supposed to have a real costume for me. I mean, again.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. Costume 1.0. I think it was. I want to get the. I think it was Superman American Alien. I think it was from that, like an homage from the comic book with the goggles and the sort of black suit. Yeah. So when you got that, were you expecting that, or were you expecting kind of a Superboy suit? Because that was pretty early.
When I went into it, they told me I wouldn't even fly. Right? They said that these powers would almost be more of a disease than they would be strength. So they kept it from me, and then someone who was the head of department, but of like a smaller department, who I was friends with, told me that in the meetings they were planning on making me Superboy. This was mid-season 1, and I was like this scrawny little kid, and I started freaking out, going like, "Why didn't they tell me this?"
I would have done some push-ups.
I'm like, I started like hitting the gym. I wasn't gaining weight, and then I gained like too much weight. I never figured out how to like really get my body into the right shape for the role until the role was already over. It was actually pretty funny. I remember one of my bosses I posted like some stupid selfie, like shirtless selfie, and I was like in good shape. And this was like it was a couple months ago, right? And one of my bosses swiped up and goes, "Where were these muscles for season 4?" And I say, "They're here for season 5, man." I was going through puberty and I couldn't figure it out. You know, like you go through weird phases in puberty.
On camera, going through puberty on camera.
On camera.
In front of the whole world.
To be Superboy. Meanwhile, you know, you're not a likable guy a lot of times. What an experience that
was. Right. You're a jerk, malcontent, coming in, trying to figure stuff out. And, oh, by the way, you got a weird suit with goggles now.
No pressure. And not to mention, it's so opposite of who I am. I guess I mentioned it before, but my whole thing is I love people.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, like I could definitely over intellectualize this to the end of days, so I don't want to because I didn't do it when I was doing it. But you know, when you're actors love to talk, you know, and I think a lot of times actors that have something to compensate for, myself included, when I'm compensating for something, like to intellectualize the character and all this stuff. But I think the better actors usually just end up doing the thing. That being said, it was very different for myself. I kind of played into the shadow of who I was. Like, I basically just played against my own instincts. So people meet me in the street and are startled that I'm so different than the character. Which
you're like Jonathan.
It's a testament, I suppose, to what I was doing when I was so young. But at the same time, I really I'm looking at something else right now, and the character would be so like me. I mean, a little cooler than me, to be honest, but so much like me that. I actually don't even know. I think it's just going to be a whole different experience.
Man.
Granted, this project goes through and everything.
Well, that's the beauty of the business that you're in too, is that when you get these roles, it's just like you can take over a different life. And sometimes it's close to you, sometimes it ain't, you know, but it's a testament to your acting that you were able to pull off the character like that. And the fact that I think you did get so much hate mail or whatever it was, negative responses early on. That's the brilliance of the acting, because that's what you want. You want some type of response from the audience. You wanted us to be yelling at our television set. Why is he acting like that? When you get me and my wife yelling at our television set, you've done your job. So I can tell you, looking back in hindsight, when you go through that, I would sometimes get screeners if I'm interviewing an actor from Superman Lois. I would sometimes get these screeners, and it would be unfinished episode that was coming up, and it would be like heat. It would say on there like heat blast or something explodes, insert here or whatever. As the actor, when you're doing, you know, it's one thing to be across from Tyler or Bitsy doing an emotional scene, but when you're acting against that big giant that has arrows coming in that he ain't there, or the heat vision, or you got to look real funky.
Yeah.
How do you do? How did you have a technique that you would approach? Because sometimes the Flash actors had to do a certain pose to make it look like they're running in and out. Did you have certain super techniques?
Totally. I mean, you just got to commit. That's what Tyler told me. I asked him on the first day. I said, "How am I supposed to do all this super stuff?" And he goes, "You just got to commit." There was a whole time that me and Melissa Benoist, he was saying, had to shoot lasers at each other like this, and we just. I mean, that's generally what I was doing. I just. That was the whole. You rely on the special effects team there to make it look good. I mean, you could either change the little stroke of paint you did on the painting, or you could change the entire painting behind it. Either way, you can make it all fit. So sometimes it took changing the painting. Like, you know, you'll do something ridiculous. It won't look good on the day. It'll look great.
Yeah.
When all the special effects are in.
Did you get to see any of that? Like, did they get to, like, when you shoot something, were they able to add some things in early? So do you go, okay, I'm gonna switch that up on the next episode when I do this?
The technology wasn't there yet until the last season or so. And even that was more or less a passion project by the SFX guys to show us what was up. Like, that's not generally standard in the industry. They don't show you anything.
I always hesitate to ask actors like their favorite episodes, because I know that 4 years was probably a blur of just stuff and work. But do you have any favorite moments, or do you like, what are your favorite memories of that 4 years, that 4-year acting class that you had, superhero acting class?
Well, I think my favorite scene, just character wise, and what ended up on the screen, was in 409. It was a scene where Jordan protected the woman that was having a panic attack when everything was flying around them. To me, that in that one moment justified a lot of what he was early on, because it showed how he could be different than his brother, how he had a different depth to himself. So that was really, really rewarding on an artistic level. Fun stuff, like just ridiculous, all the party scenes. Because I know I mentioned it before, I was young when I started the show, but also we were not allowed to interact with other young people, really, or anyone, right? You know, they didn't really have us in mind when they were making these sweeping COVID rules in SAG. So a lot of the background actors and a lot of the like random, like to you guys random, to me not really, a lot of those people that have one or two lines in those party scenes were actually my really good friends off screen. So can you only imagine you take all your friends to work and it's a movie set?
Take your friends to work day.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I mean, I had to make sure we were staying on track because sometimes it just got ridiculous. But all my favorite memories are those. Or when everyone's miserable. I'm a fan of misery sometimes. One time we got locked into the exterior set of the house, which was just a hollow shell. And we were there all night as they were refilming stuff because one of the directors didn't know what they were doing. And we ended up, by we, it was myself, Tyler Bitsy, and Jordan. We all got to know each other a lot better that night. Like, there are times where the misery actually lets you connect on a human level, which, again, you don't do in the green room. In the green room, you do not speak on matters that make you feel like a human being whatsoever. It's so Hollywood, it's so ridiculous, and it's not who I want to be at all. You know, even in interviews, you're supposed to have certain ways of phrasing things. I feel like, especially nowadays, inauthenticity, it ends up taking its toll. Like, I think people can tell when someone's inauthentic because you end up getting a full view of the person. The same applies on set. I just tried to be me. But those nights were really cool.
I think that comes across in the performance too. What an arc for your character, though, over the 4 years. You mentioned, you referenced it earlier. The show probably should have gone at least 7 seasons or whatever, if not more. But had they talked about, I know, like even in the pilot, I think the character of Jonathan like throws a football and knocks the tire off. Like there were some latent powers. Had they talked about maybe working the two brothers into a spinoff series of like, was that even a thought, or do you try to put it in people's brains now?
I mean, yeah, that was definitely something going around. People were speaking about it. As for Jonathan's powers, that tire thing was actually kind of an accident from our end.
Okay. I was curious. I watched that and I went, because even Loa Bitsy makes a look and I'm like, were they writing that in earlier?
Well, the idea was that they thought that Jonathan was clearly developing powers, but he wasn't. And for the longest time, Jonathan wasn't supposed to develop powers. The reason why that happened as it did is because it was a trigger they could pull. And they were expecting to do it more or less in the last season 8, 9, 10.
Right.
And they said, shoot, we have to do it now. So there was a version of this show, which is the one they pitched to me, you know, late season 2, and I was building to all of season 3, which was, you know, they were doing the Death of Superman. They got the rights to it.
Right.
And my character was supposed to take up that responsibility. Full on super suit. They were supposed to cut my hair so it looked a little less ridiculous.
Wow.
They're supposed to cut my hair.
It was big hair. It was big hair, yeah.
It was a lot of hair. Full on super suit, and it was supposed to be very redeeming for the character. Which is also why at the end of season 3, they just made him unbelievably unlikable. They kind of they doubled down on it. Like he was just in it for the fame, the this and that. They were supposed to show that after his father's death, that he grew a lot. And they were really going to give this character an opportunity to redeem himself. Okay. But what ended up happening, season 4, you know, they obviously couldn't do that. They didn't have enough time.
Yeah,
that was supposed to be like a 5 or 6 episode arc of like more or less leading the show. It sounded like from what they were pitching to me, but maybe not.
Okay.
Which is so exciting, obviously, to hear. And then, you know, the plans changed, and what we ended up with was that Jonathan was supposed to get powers. I was supposed to give up completely. I was supposed to double down again. and just completely become dejected from it, and basically, find myself where I was like season 1, and just find a life away from superheroing. It wasn't enough for me. Jonathan gets his powers, he becomes the Thing. So we ended up somewhere in the middle there, which I appreciate a little bit more. So just for the character's sake.
You're right. Well, because at the end they're like Superboys. Are they?
Yeah.
Do they even name your characters at that? Like, are they Superboys?
They call us Superboy, like alternately. When Jonathan takes up the goggles thing, they call him Superboy. Right. Again, like they were gonna give me Superboy, like that was the idea, or not me, the Jordan, Jordan Kent, Superboy. That was supposed to be a thing. I was obviously very excited when I heard that plan. It is, it is what it is. Life changes. You can't cry over spilled milk, especially when the milk was handed to you from on high. Like, it was a great experience to do this show. And I think Michael killed a lot of that stuff. He's a very talented guy. Yeah. So I'm grateful for it. And ultimately, like on screen, more or less, my character was still Superboy. If that matters or doesn't, who cares?
Did you get to keep anything from set?
I do have a little bit of XK. I wish I kept more. Like now I'm like thinking to myself, I wish I kept more XK because I didn't take that much. When you're
suit, though.
You're gonna think about these things, there's so much of it around, and then you realize, wait, that's all gone now.
No suit though. You didn't keep the suit.
No, they didn't let me keep the suit. You'd have to basically steal it from Warner Brothers in order to keep the suit.
But if they did something though, you'd be up for it though. Like if they did bring something back TV wise, you'd be up. Okay,
I would be in general. Like let's see what it is. Let's see what it is. Also, James Gunn has different plans. He did his own version of Superman, completely independent. That was ultimately the thing that killed us. Yeah. They were even trying to find us a home on HBO. Like DC was the thing that was the big arrow that came. And
that was when James said they've got 1 or 2 more seasons and then they're done. That was pretty much it. Can you watch Superman? Like, have you watched Superman in the theaters?
I haven't.
Or is that tough? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was tough for you to watch.
I want to. I should. I feel like it feels like almost like a work thing I'm putting off. I hate to say it like that, but it's just going to be a lot.
Well, but everybody comes back in some way or another. Because I mean, it's like he's either Aquaman or he's Lobo. It's like, what character would you like to come back as? If there's or would you maybe like a Superboy or something Kryptonian, or like if James Gunn called and said, hey, Alex, we'd like you to come in. Is there any kind of comic booky character you want to be?
Not even in DC. I always want to play Spider-Man in Marvel because he's from.
Okay. That one might be taken. That one.
I think that one might be taken.
Holland he can't do it forever. We'll see. Yeah, right? There's like 18 Spider-Man, so you're in good shape. All right.
I would do Superboy again. I would if it was the right thing. I think I'm moving on from it. Quite honestly, like I had to let it go. Yeah. It's so easy to become just let it consume you that you're holding on to something like that.
Yeah. But we appreciate it. And I'm going to wrap up here real quick. What are your thoughts on the legacy of Superman Lois in that, nearly 9-decade history that we talked about?
I think we can point to it as one of the best iterations of the character. I really think we can. And that's not because of me. That's because of the team that was all over. It was because of the writers. It was because of the showrunner, both of them, because second 2 seasons, it was Brett and Todd, who fought and fought and fought for this to be as good as it was. And the other members of the cast who were incredible. Ultimately, that all came together to make, I think, the best iteration of Superman that I've seen. I haven't seen James Gunn's thing, though. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it just strikes a different tone. He's such a talented guy, James Gunn, so I'm sure he will do a great job with it.
Superman Lois, one of my faves. What's next for you? You mentioned, can you talk about what's coming up, or super duper secret? I mean,
look, the UN stuff, that's my day-to-day. That's great. But I am working on another project. It's so close to happening. We'll see if it does. but it would strike a completely different tone, and it would probably be knock on wood, it would actually probably be a bigger deal than Superman, which would be really great. Because also I think it would showcase a different side of myself as an actor, and I think people will really like it. I know I'll love it. It seems like a lot of fun. It's completely.
You're on the socials.
Yeah, follow me, Instagram, TikTok. More Instagram than TikTok, but I'm around.
We know immediately around the corner is TerrifiCon. I can't wait to meet up with you in person. I love watching I scroll your socials. I see you at these cons. It was so cool to see you with Bob Eubanks from the Newlywed Game and legendary singer Paul Williams. I love that you connect with people that I grew up watching. It's so fun watching you. You're going to make a ton of new friends at TerrifiCon. Can't wait to see their continued success. And thank you so much for joining me on Comic Book Central. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So long.